Hey, it's Sid with Table Talk with Sid, a life memo. I want to talk about the powers, the freedom, the ability that it creates in your life when you take responsibility for your past, your downfalls, the things that may not have been successful in your life. When you take ownership of your past, what you're doing is giving yourself power. It's really crazy because many people, due to self-esteem or lack of, I might point out. So, in general, not always, but in general, those who struggle with low self-esteem will struggle with taking responsibility and ownership for their downfalls. So, if you want to increase your self-esteem, your self-worth, your value, all of those things, by taking one of the first steps of ownership and responsibility for your hiccups, for your errors, what it does is it gives you freedom. By taking ownership, you're saying to your soul, I'm worthwhile, I'm valuable, I'm strong enough to handle this. By taking ownership, you can now look at it and say, okay, I erred there, but now I have information because I've taken ownership. This is what I need to do differently to have a different future. Oh, this is what I can do behavior-wise to create different in my life. When you take ownership, it's an education. You've just educated yourself. Once you're aware of where your downfalls are, now you can use them as stepping stones to propel you to something better. It doesn't mean you own them and then you look at yourself and you call yourself stupid and worthless and look what you did. What it means is you take them, you own them, you look at them and say, okay, I am going to do differently because I'm aware of it now and I'm strong enough to do it. What happens is that builds up your self-confidence. It builds up your self-worth because you're practicing skills that give you strength, that give you ownership. Once you've been able to own your downfalls, you will find you then can package them up, toss them away in the trash, walk away from them, clean your hands of it, and move on. They no longer own you. When you do not take ownership of your behavior and your habits, you will find your life will continue to twirl and twirl and twirl in the same form it has for years with the same outcome day after day. It may be different people, it may be different situations, but you're getting the same outcome. It's because certain behaviors create certain outcomes. Certain ways of thinking create certain outcomes. Certain beliefs create certain outcomes. If you want a different outcome, you need to look at where your habits have been, where your beliefs lie, and how you've been living life. Then alter it, do different, own it, feel it, see it, so that you can start reorganizing yourself to be different. I have several friends that really struggle with this. Now, of course, as your children grow up and they're after the age of 18, they're adults, they need to take responsibility for themselves. However, one in particular has this grief, this frustration, and this sadness that he, quote unquote, was never given all the opportunity to raise his children, that those children were taken away from him by his ex-wife, and that all of those opportunities as being a father were never granted him. Well, okay, you know what, there are certain situations you have no control over, and there are certain things that happen in life that we have to find different stepping stones to overcome. However, majority of our history, majority of our past was created by our bad or poor or good habits. They were created by our belief system. They were created by the way we viewed life. They were created by the interactions that we had communication-wise with other people. So life, God, and the universe, regardless if you believe in one over the other, it's irrelevant. The point is, privilege is always given. So this individual had been given privilege to raise his children. That's why he was given those children. He had that privilege. Now, if your behavior, if your choices, if your communication skills do not go in the same direction as the privilege, meaning having gratitude, being grounded, finding good ways to communicate, making good choices, all of these things, then what happens is the privilege has to be taken away. It's just like having a job. So you may be the manager of the Western Division, but if you don't stay on top of your gig, you don't know all the details to your job, you're not showing up on time, you're not finishing your reports on date, I will tell you this, the privilege will go away. Things are not just a freedom or a mulligan because it's been given to you. You actually have the freedom to choose, to behave, and to think any way you want. Now, according to how you believe, think, and behave is what you're going to get on the other side. So often people are thinking others are doing something to them. In actuality, no one is doing anything to you. You, my friend, are choosing how you are reacting to it by your reactions of your behavior, of your beliefs, of your habits is what is going to help encourage whatever outcome came with it. So you want to right, meaning correct, your past. And maybe, like I'm telling you about this individual, he wasn't pleased with the quote-unquote belief that his children were taken from him and he didn't get to raise them. But if he can take a step back and say, okay, you know what? There are some things here that I can take ownership in, responsibility for. More than likely, I was not considerate enough. Maybe, maybe not. More than likely, I was looking at myself more often than I was looking at my ex-wife or my children. More than likely, I had habits that weighed over what the children's benefit was to be with me. Maybe I did not value myself enough, and when one does not value themselves, simply and across the board, you cannot give what you do not own. So this does not make him a bad guy. This makes him a guy who now has opportunity to take ownership. When a person keeps trying to push their downfalls, their failures, all this onto other people, the problem is it is not for somebody else to own. Therefore, your life will continue to go around and around and around with no resolution because no one's owning it. So it's still circling around you. You want it to go away, you must take ownership. You must figure out now, I can't go back in my past, but how can I now right what I have? How can I now have gratitude for what I have? How can I now do different than I did years ago? So that, yes, I can't correct that, but I can correct what is happening right now so that the future has a different outcome than where it's heading. My point is this: ownership, responsibility is your first step to finding value for yourself, to find strength for your future, to do different so that you, who deserves to have the future you choose to have, can have the life best and most meant for you. Remember, in your day you may fall down. Stand up, brush off, and move on. Talk to you.